All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a venture strategy that is so powerful, yet honestly so logical, you're going to wonder why it isn't just the standard everywhere. We're going to break down the concept of the African Export Branding House, and we'll do it in incredibly simple terms, showing you exactly how anyone can fundamentally transform African commodities into premium, highly sought-after global brands.
So, to really understand this, we have to start with a massive question, something known as the Great African Paradox. Think about it. The continent has the richest soil on Earth, incredible raw materials, and a massive, capable workforce. Yet, when it comes to global exports, the financial returns just absolutely do not match the output. Why on earth does a continent that exports so much earn so incredibly little? Well, here's exactly where the problem lies. Africa creates the raw product, but foreign companies come in, do the branding, and capture literally all the profit. Just imagine massive amounts of raw cocoa and shea butter leaving the continent for pennies on the dollar, only to be transformed into premium European chocolate bars or luxury international beauty creams. The raw materials leave, and the real wealth, it's generated completely elsewhere. It really boils down to this one crucial point. African producers often lack the global branding, the certification, and the export systems to actually own the end customer. Because without packaging and marketing, somebody else is just going to step in and finish the job. And in business, the person who puts a pretty bow on the final product and hands it to the consumer, yeah, they're the one who takes home the lion's share of the profit.
Section 1. The Solution: Owning the Brand Value. Now, you've probably heard the term intellectual property, or IP. It sounds like complex legal jargon, right? But honestly, in very simple terms, it just means owning the recipe, owning the packaging design, and owning the brand name. When you lock those things down, you aren't just selling a seasonal crop anymore. You are selling a recognized, trusted brand. And that becomes a highly valuable long-term asset. It's an absolute game changer. Owning the brand completely flips the script on the economics. Under the old commodity model, your margins are painfully low and you need heavy assets. We're talking tractors, huge farms, the whole shebang. But when you switch to a brand model, your profit margins shoot way up. You become asset light. That means you can outsource the farming and the manufacturing, all while you hold on to that high-value African-owned brand. Moving on to Section 2, the Simple Business Blueprint. Let's translate some of this corporate setup into an easy visual. Think of a holding company, or a holdco, like the master key holder of a giant house. You strategically set this up in places like Nigeria, Mauritius, the UAE, or the UK. This parent company doesn't actually make products itself. It just sits safely at the very top, securely holding all your valuable trademarks and intellectual property. This specific setup gives you global banking access and, crucially, gives international investors incredible confidence in your business. So underneath that master key holder, you build out your rooms. These are your operating companies, or OpCos, and your special purpose vehicles, known as SPVs. This structure isolates your risk brilliantly. If the food export room has an issue, the beauty room stays perfectly safe. And those SPVs, they're basically just dedicated temporary structures, kind of like a pop-up shop, created to manage one major international contract without ever risking the rest of the house. Of course, to make all this work, you have to navigate the vital gatekeepers: customs, export councils, food safety organizations. Compliance here is non-negotiable for sure. You have to work with them because these organizations provide the anti-counterfeit protection, the traceability, and the sanitary stamps of approval that are absolutely required if you want your product to actually scan at a supermarket register in Europe or the Americas. Section 3. Making and managing money. Okay, so right about now you might be wondering, how much does all this actually cost? The reality is, exporting is pretty capital intensive. You require medium to high working capital because you have to pay for the harvest, manufacture the inventory, handle logistics, and ship it across the ocean, all while waiting months for your overseas buyers to finally pay their invoices. But here is the really good news. There are some seriously strong funding sources out there, practically begging to back this kind of thing. Millions of diaspora investors, Africans living abroad, desperately want authentic, premium products from home. Plus, export-focused banks and development finance institutions know that the global demand for traceable, ethically sourced African goods is rising fast, and they are super eager to invest in it. And once you get going, this model is incredibly scalable. Why? Because you're pulling in high-margin cash in two distinct ways. You've got transactional revenue from big one-off wholesale export deals, but the real magic is the recurring revenue. When an international supermarket signs a multi-year distributor contract or retail customers subscribe to your premium coffee every single month, that reliable, repeating cash flow makes your business incredibly valuable. Now, I know what you're thinking. If the demand is this proven and the margins are this high, what's the catch? Why isn't everyone and their neighbor doing this? There have to be some structural barriers keeping the average person out, right?
Which brings us to Section 4, Real Risks to Watch.
Time for a quick reality check, because building an international branding house comes with massive hurdles. We hear a lot about poor roads and supply chain logistics in Africa, right? But the actual silent killer of these ventures is often founder conflict. In a lot of family-owned businesses, internal disputes over equity, succession, or control can completely derail a promising global brand. You absolutely need rock-solid shareholder agreements from day one if you want to survive. Then there's the currency issue. If your local currency, like the Naira, is fluctuating wildly, it destroys your ability to accurately price goods or import your packaging. To survive, export firms absolutely must use offshore treasury buffers. You're essentially keeping cash reserves safely in a global piggy bank, using stable international currencies, like USD, so the business can easily weather any local economic storms. Finally, Section 5. The big global exit. Let's look at the horizon here. Before you even think about trying to crack Europe or the Americas, there's a massive, massive market right in your backyard. The African Continental Free Trade Area, or AfCFTA, acts as the ultimate launchpad. It's designed to slash tariffs and open borders between countries, which makes Pan-African expansion incredibly viable and allows your branding house to easily scale across the continent first. And here's the ultimate payoff. If you build this structured branding house right and get that international traction, the global heavyweights are gonna come knocking. Global food conglomerates and private equity firms are always on the hunt for authentic brands to buy out. Whether you eventually sell to a luxury brand, take the company public, or just keep it as a long-term legacy business paying dividends to your family, you hold all the cards. So, to wrap this all up, keeping the intellectual property on the continent completely rewrites the economic story. We move away from just selling cheap commodities to actually owning premium global assets. The market is hungry for this, and as you've seen, the blueprint is right here in front of us. The only question left is, what African brand will you build? If you're ready to explore how to turn this raw potential into a global standard, reach out to us. We would absolutely love to start building this future with you.